Hi everybody. Again, it's really great to see so many people here tonight, so thanks so much for everybody coming out. I'm not always much of a public speaker, so following really inspirational, lovely words like that is a bit of a challenge, especially when you're talking about a business plan, but here we go. To set a little bit of the context, what we really wanted to go about with this was to think about the fact that the net zero targets that Glasgow City Council has set to achieve net zero emissions by 2030 is obviously an enormous challenge, and we think that community energy can be a really big part of meeting that challenge. Not only in terms of just getting that work done and bringing our emissions down, but also in terms of making sure the transition is really rooted in climate and social justice and reflects some of the projects that we've been hearing about already tonight. So this business plan is for like a 5-year vision for how we can do that, which we want to really get your feedback on so that we can kind of formalise that, write up a formal document which we can then take out to funders and start putting it into action. So we really wanted to start from the point of thinking like what are the specific challenges and opportunities in Glasgow so that we can really understand what type of projects that we want to take forward and how best to address those challenges. I've worked in community energy projects for 10 years, and like Scotland is a really world leader in community energy, but I think it's fair to say that a lot of that success has been in communities that are very different from Glasgow, in rural areas where there's a lot of access to land, the challenges that they have are very different, the communities themselves are very different. So we really wanted to think through what are the specific challenges and opportunities in Glasgow. I've mentioned that ambitious net zero target, which speaks for itself, but just the pace of change that we need to achieve that by 2030 is enormous. If you just think about things like the decarbonisation of transport and heat in our buildings, walking around seeing how many buildings have actually got solar panels or heat pumps in them is relatively small. So yeah, that all represents a really big challenge, just changing all of that. That's also against the backdrop of cost of fuel crisis and cost of living crisis, which are not only really felt by people in their homes and the fuel bills that they're facing, but also running costs of community organisations with community buildings, running costs for public buildings and the council and also local businesses. And that's that again is set against a backdrop of lots of inequalities which go along lines of class and race and gender and other inequalities, and we really think that trying to address those inequalities alongside the fundamental energy issues is really important. We want to kind of come up with ideas for projects that address all of those in an intersectional way. And then finally, just the fact that Glasgow is a very big, diverse, modern city makes it very difficult for a single organisation to develop projects that are genuinely led by communities. Trying to speak with a single voice with all of those people is very challenging, so that's a big challenge in itself. Thinking about opportunities, our natural resources, the sun is the obvious one. Well, obvious, I don't know, but it's the easiest win for an urban community energy project is thinking about solar panels on roofs, but there are other opportunities too. So the built environment, like I said, there's lots of roof space available in Glasgow. There's lots of buildings that are suitable for solar panels, for heat pumps. It also means that there's a lot of users of energy, so people who want to buy reduced cost or locally generated energy. People and skills, so Glasgow's got a really thriving science and technology sector. Lots of renewable energy businesses are based here. There's a really proactive and engaged local authority who's got resources to put into this. But also just, in terms of community activism and community development, there's lots of people with really valuable and engaged skills that we can draw on and try and make our projects a success. I think diversity is also a really key opportunity for us. The fact that there's so many people in Glasgow who have got direct links with places in the world that are facing the brunt of climate injustices, people who have got lived experience of like the hostile environment and the immigration system, people who are dealing with the worst effects of the fuel crisis. I think these are really important voices that we need to bring into our thinking and make sure that our projects that we develop are account for those voices and are led by those voices as well. So with all that in mind, we've kind of outlined 4 areas of work and kind of growth of our organisation that we'd like to develop. I'll start here with renewable energy projects. So this is really the kind of cornerstone of what we want to achieve. We want to generate as much community-owned renewable energy as we can. If Glasgow Community Energy puts time to develop and operate those projects, they can produce revenue, which has the impact that we've heard about tonight already. In terms of network building, because of the size and the complexity of a city like Glasgow, we can't do this on our own, so we need to build partnerships with community organisations who have that grassroots kind of connection with people on the ground. We want to draw on their local knowledge and get access to communities through them, and in turn they can take part in energy projects that might be beyond their capacity if they were working on their own, and also get access to the Community Activism Fund, so that they can deliver the essential fuel poverty work that they do locally, or whatever other local projects are relevant and priorities to them. And then more broadly, in terms of membership and engagement, we want to give people opportunities to volunteer and take ownership of our projects, to become involved, to become directors. We eventually, hopefully, definitely want to give them the opportunity to invest in future projects. And we want to do more to reach more people and spread the message of community energy and get people enthusiastic about it. And then finally, thinking about partnerships. So to develop projects, we need sites to develop those projects on. We need people to sell the power to. We need some specialist support, and we need funding. So building partnerships with local government, with local businesses, funders and other bodies is really important. It also gives us an opportunity to be an advocate for community ownership and for community voices in general in the big changes that are coming in our energy system. So I'm going to look at each of those in turn in a little bit more detail. Opportunities for new renewable energy projects. The biggest one that we're focusing on is more rooftop solar PV, which along the same model of the two sites that we have in operation at the moment. This is the most tried and tested business model. We know it works because we're doing it, but it's also the kind of default project model for urban community energy in the UK. We have identified quite a large number of sites that we think are suitable for solar panels, for community-owned solar panels, both in terms of them being technically viable, but also being owned by organisations that we think would make good partners for a community energy project. Also, we've been primarily looking at sites that are located close to our existing member organisations, again, to kind of keep that local link in place. Most of those buildings are owned by the City Council. Again, we think that's our main priority, and that's a positive because we've got that existing partnership that we can build on. But there are competing priorities at the council. We'll hear more from Charlotte about this a little bit later, but the council have got their own programme to roll out solar panels on their buildings, and that will kind of help them to address cost savings to the best degree. But we really want to make the case that community ownership should be a significant part of that mix. We think we can help them to do that quicker, and we think that by doing it cooperatively with communities, it really serves the community wealth building agenda and gives much more local control and democratic participation, and can give a lot more direct economic benefit through our activism fund. I'll just go through the rest of them quite quickly. Like I said, most of these are in early stage ideas. Community buildings, there is funding available through Local Energy Scotland for community buildings to install renewables. I was just chatting to Gemma from Local Energy Scotland, who's here tonight. She gives great support, so if you are with a community organisation who owns a building, you should speak to Gemma. But she might not thank me for that, because her caseload's enormous, and that means that a lot of the potential that's out there, it's very difficult to make all of that happen. So we want to look at ways that we can support that process and get more community buildings to apply for that funding and help them to do that, and possibly to look at co-ownership models with us as well. E-bikes, so Callum mentioned we have an existing e-bike charging facility in Christon, which it's not likely to generate a lot of revenue for our projects, but it does have a really direct and visible community impact that people can see on the ground, and we'd like to do more of that. There is opportunities for larger scale renewables, so people might be aware of the Cathkin-Braes wind turbine to the south of Glasgow. There's possibly potential for more wind turbines at that site. We've also had some discussions with Scottish Water about larger scale renewable projects that could directly power their waste treatment plants. Callum mentioned the shared ownership scheme at the Vale of Leven, so there are opportunities there, but we don't really have the capacity to start teasing those out and making them happen at the moment. Vacant and derelict land, so again we'll hear more from Charlotte about this I'm sure, but the council owns quite a significant amount of vacant and derelict land, and they are looking at options for partnering with community organisations for heat and power projects on that land, and we're keen to kind of see what comes out of that process and see if we can take part. And in the future, potentially to look at innovation projects. So there's lots happening in the community energy sector more broadly about trying to get people's homes powered directly by locally generated community-owned power, and we'd like to be in a position to look at those projects in the future. We've got the possibility of district heat networks being rolled out across Glasgow, and we'd like to play a role in that too. So network building. I've talked about why I think this is important and why I think we need to do it if we're going to be successful, but I think there's three kind of areas of work that we need to do to make that happen. These look like buzzwords, which I guess they kind of are, but there's some substance behind them. So I think we need to energise and diversify and formalise our existing network. So we do have 28 organisations who are members of Glasgow Community Energy, and going out and speaking to them and getting them to be involved in our projects is always a really valuable and exciting thing that we do. But going to under-resourced community organisations and saying, "Here's our projects, come and help them do us," is quite a big ask, because lots of people here will be involved in community organisations, and you'll know that the workload is intense, and dealing with excited people coming through with new ideas all the time often takes a lot more energy than it gives. So I think we can do a lot more to go out to proactively be involved in what they're already doing, to go to their events, to witness firsthand the work they're doing on the ground, start to understand more directly about what their priorities are and where those priorities overlap with what we're doing. And through that process, hope to try and inspire them to take part in our projects. But we need time and resource ourselves in order to do that. We want to diversify it. So our current member organisations do cover a really good geographical spread of Glasgow. It represents some of the most diverse communities that there are in Scotland, but we don't currently have any member organisations that are specifically led by or set up to represent the interests of ethnic minorities, for example. So we want to do a lot more to make sure that we are speaking to a more diverse range of community organisations and to bring those into the process. We are in discussions with Semvo about the best way to facilitate that, and I'm hoping that we'll hear from ACUS this evening. I haven't seen her yet, but there she is. Hi. Who's going to tell us some more about Semvo's work in this area, so we're really excited about that. We're also speaking to some individual organisations, so we've been having a conversation with an organisation called ZimScot, who represent and work with Zimbabwean and other African communities in Glasgow. And just through initial conversations, it's been really inspiring to just hear about some of the obvious synergies between the work that we want to do and the work that they want to do. And we want to have more of those conversations. And in time, we might need to look at how to formalise this network. We do want to become the delivery body for community energy projects, working in partnership with community organisations across Glasgow. So we might need to look at structures of how that works. That could take a number of forms, and I don't really know what that would look like yet, but we want to develop those models and that partnership in collaboration with the community sector as a whole, and look at ways that we can best facilitate the best outcomes for all parties. Engagement and membership. So again, three buzzwords. So in terms of participation, we want to develop an active volunteer and director recruitment and management programme. We want to get people involved in our projects and really utilise those skills that I mentioned at the top. We want to do that in conjunction with an equality, diversity and inclusion review to make sure that we're engaging the most amount of people and a diverse range of people and removing barriers to involvement. Our governance, so we are constituted as a community benefit society, so people need to buy shares to become a member. At our first share offer, the minimum investment was £50, which was lower than we were advised to make it by the partners we were working with at the time, but we felt it was important to make it as low as possible. But at £50, that's still a significant barrier to a really massive amount of people, so we want to look at options for reducing that down as low as we possibly can. and we need to do that in tandem with, you know, working out what the best practical thing to do for our projects is, as well as looking at how that we integrate that with a wider network. So that's a piece of work which we need to do. And communications, I think we do some really good work around communications already. Just the fact that there's so many people here tonight is testament to that. I think Shona has done a really great job. You won't hear from Shona tonight, but she's done lots of work to make this event happen and make sure you all knew about it. But as we grow as an organisation, we're going to do more stuff, so we're going to need to talk about it more, and we're going to want to talk to more people. So as we start to grow, we're going to have to think about how we change our communications and speak to a broader amount of people. Finally, so partnerships. I said, yeah, we need to get site agreements for projects. We need to sell power to people, so that means making agreements with people who own property, primarily the local council. We not only want to do that to make the projects happen, but also to promote the benefits of community ownership and to really start to bring Glasgow City Council as well as other city councils in the city region along with us, and to really sell those benefits to them, make them understand what the model is, make them understand how we can contribute to the work they're doing, and more broadly make sure that the community sector has an active role in conversations that are going on at council level and in local business that are really going to transform the way we use heat in particular. So we want to make sure that communities have a seat at that table. Local businesses, likewise, there's lots of opportunities for partnering with local businesses on energy projects, so we need to do more to promote community ownership to them and to make sure that we're speaking to the right people and identifying those opportunities. And finally, funders. In order to make any of this happen, we're going to need to bring in funding, so we need to start developing a relationship with funders, which is the essence of my final slide. To make any of this happen, we really need funding, so we are looking for your feedback, which we can then incorporate into our final business plan to take out to funders, secure that funding, take on staff, and deliver it all. Easy. But your feedback really is needed. Like, you know, it's all very well for us to sit here and say this is the stuff we're going to do, but like, it's really important to us that it's done in a way that's genuinely led by people. And as many people as possible, and people from as diverse a range of backgrounds as possible. So we do have this questionnaire which you can follow the QR code to. There's some paper copies at the back, which if you think you're going to forget to do it online, please do a paper copy tonight, but if you're definitely going to do it online, please don't do a paper copy, because I have to enter all of that in later now. Too much. But yeah, also the more people who do that, then the greater legitimacy we'll have when we're speaking to project partners and funders and so on, so please go and do that.